Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, so let me share my screen here, and we're talking about Domino 1. And you should be seeing my screen right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. So first off, I'm going to use what looks like a slideshow to help kind of keep track and keep on time and cover everything. We got a small audience, so if there's any questions, feel free to shout out or just drop it in the chat. I have that in my other window here. But Domino is really more than just an authoring tool like many of the ones you might be familiar with, Storyline or Lectora or Captivate. It really provides a way to not only do everything they do, but a whole lot more. And we'll talk about some of those key differences and variations. One of it is instructor-led training. We all do instructor-led training. And typically what happens is we give a PowerPoint out to folks, and then they use that PowerPoint. Of course, we run into problems. When we update the PowerPoint, sometimes people don't get it. Sometimes people don't use the updated PowerPoint. Sometimes people change PowerPoints because they feel they know better, and we know they don't. Or they do know better, but no one else gets to take advantage of it. So what Domino did is one of our many ways to build content is in the style of PowerPoint or Storyline, kind of that fixed pixel design. And we created what we call an instructor-led presentation theme. And that automatically takes animations and turns them into click. And I can use my clicker or arrow keys to move through that PowerPoint, just like a PowerPoint presentation. And if I wrote notes for the PowerPoint, I guess if you circle that around, that actually minimizes it. But if I wrote notes, I can keep that in my other window and have that available too. So again, this provides a great way. And of course, there's a way to easily distribute those PowerPoints so they have the link, if you will. And then when you update it, they just go to the same link and it's all updated. So yet another way to use Domino to really manage all your content, not just your traditional e-learning content. So I'm going to be using that today to go through it. And you can see here, I won't keep the notes up, but I have some notes on some different pages here, and you see that changed as we came to history. So even though you may have not heard of Domino before, we've been around for over 20 plus years. So in other words, we're not a fly-by-night company. One of the great advantages of being around a long time, we kind of know what people want, et cetera there. And we've had a lot of opportunity to add in features that maybe don't apply to everyone, but that's a feature you really need. But you look at a lot of other, especially newer tools, but even some older tools, and they don't have features like a publishing option that automatically doesn't let you review answers unless you pass the test. So things that are perhaps not important to you or one group, but critical to another one. So there's a lot of depth to our product. And our most recent release was Domino 1, which really brings a fully responsive software sim, et cetera, together. We also have a mobile app. In fact, we have clients that just use our mobile app because that can be integrated with a LMS and can even launch courses such as Storyline and other courses, non-Domino courses too, and track and integrate with your LMS and send results back. Lots of different customers use our product, ranging from large clients with 100, 200 authors and more, building and collaborating, all working together, on down to authors that only have one or two people doing it. So we're kind of unique in that space where we hit what is called a traditional LCMS, Learning Content Management System, as well as a straight authoring tool. We kind of bring the best of both worlds to you. And if you're not really used to features that an LCMS can bring, you kind of get some advantages you didn't even usually even think about in the past. We also are big believers in software as a service, and the service being a big S, just like software. In other words, if the service is not as good as the software, there's not much point there. So we do have a community available. It's not the biggest community out there in terms of size, but one of the things we strongly believe is you should be able to go to support and they should be giving you great assistance and support. Community is great, but that shouldn't be the primary resource to get help. The company should provide that, and that's our philosophy in general. And these are just some quotes from folks that recently went ahead and gave some feedback to our support team. Another big thing is we've won lots of awards, like eLearning Magazine. We were voted as the best authoring tool, best software simulation, best mobile, and best LCMS. Like I said, we touch a lot of different areas in there. We've also been voted as the best authoring tool by Craig Weiss, eLearning 24/7, a number of years in a row, and top 5 when he doesn't put out a specific one there. Also, Brendan Hall, we've won gold awards over that and silver over a number of different years. Training industry, we've been in that for I think 9 years running too as well. So a lot of different folks have recognized that we really bring something different to the market. And it's really allows you to author anything, publish anywhere from a single source, has advanced team collaboration. Everyone here plus everyone actually in your organization could actually be working together at the same course at the same time. There's the idea of content sharing and reuse, and not the way some other tools call reuse. In other words, if you update it once, it gets updated everywhere automatically. It's not a way that you can easily share a library content. Yeah, that's there too, of course, but actual true reuse. We're all HTML5 based. We've actually been that way since 2011. No, we're not a company struggling to go ahead and switch from Flash. We actually struggled a long time ago, and that's behind us there, so you get the advantage of that. We have 3 different authoring modes. No other tool has that in the same interface. Some tools have that as packaged, but they're completely different products. We also have different authoring levels. So if you have teammates that have different skill levels, they don't have to have the complex interface to show them all the capabilities. They can have an easy one. And of course, easy to get up and running. Everyone kind of says that. Part of it is the proof in the pudding there, but we do some different things like having options to change the interface. So you don't have to have as complex options, but you're not restricted to that if you don't need to be. Claro. Claro is a full-featured authoring system. It's all one authoring interface. It's not a separate tool. This is the traditional approach. This is what I use for the PowerPoint and PowerPoint conversions, etc. with that. It's what, if you're used to Storyline, and you want to do that, that's the type of layout. It shrinks to fit the screen with that. So it works from that design. If you look at the authoring interface, you might say, hey, that looks pretty familiar. We actually, way back in 2008 and 9 and 10, we licensed the ribbon toolbar design from Microsoft and brought the ribbon toolbar design to the web even before Microsoft did. So we've kept that in there. When you double click, for example, on the text object is there, it opens up a format and style and gives you all sorts of different options associated with that. This is a drag drop type screen where you can go ahead and design that. Everything is what I call a fixed pixel design there. Flow is a truly responsive choice, and that means it actually changes and adapts. And I'm not talking about a responsive player. That's just lip service or marketing speak for I don't have responsive design. It actually changes and adjusts by this screen there. Since I know people are familiar with Articulate, it'd be like Rise, except I don't have to learn a new product, and all the features of Storyline would be in a responsive design. So it does change and reorient it, and here's the responsive look and feel. And if you look in and go, it looks about the same, that's because it is about the same. It is the same ribbon toolbar design. 99% of the options are identical. When I say not 100%, that's because there are some actions like scroll down to the page. That doesn't make sense in a fixed pixel. So it is an action available and responsive. Or an action like move from one XY coordinate to a different XY coordinate. That makes sense in a fixed pixel, but doesn't make sense in responsive. So there's some minor differences there, but the authoring interface is completely the same. The actions, the variables, all the advanced features, they're available in all of them. Of course, the page works very differently. This is a structured page. You don't drag and drop and put things in a specific position. It's a structured page that you lay out structures and basically columns, groups and elements and things on a page there. And for example, if you go to page in Claro, you'd see layers and multiple layers and whatnot, just like you expect in any other traditional authoring tool. If you go to a flow course, you see the course structure because it is a structured page where things move and change. Also, this is something that you do see in some desktop tools. There isn't a cloud-based tool out there that has this. And there's no desktop tool that has both Mac and Windows. We were just talking about going back to Mac. You can go ahead and work with that. And by the way, of course, we have all this power in Mac. So if you're banging your head up against the wall and installing Windows on your Mac, stop going ahead and doing that. This is a software sim. It's actually a desktop hybrid. It gets installed on your desktop, true Mac or true Windows, and then it works with the cloud base. So you capture that, create a show me, try me. There's PDF job aid. Test me is coming out here in a few months that they're working on right now to give you some options there. And literally you drag and drop that up to your either fully responsive course or to your traditional course. So we see here is the desktop, what it looks like. Lots of different features there. Things like you can block out stuff with a censoring image there. You can put in pointers. It doesn't actually create a true movie, which is awesome because it looks like a movie in the show me, but it makes it super easy to edit. You don't have to slice it out and hope that you took a breath like I haven't for the last 30 seconds. You can very easily do that. And if you record audio, you're recording each individual step. So you only have to be perfect for a few seconds. And if you're not, it's easy to record that step. So again, it makes it very easy to change and adjust if your software does, or even if it doesn't, to go ahead and make the recording. And then you can make a show me, try me available. Once you drag and drop it up here, there's just buttons under the option to switch it. And if you want to make that option available for your learners, you simply go ahead and add a button. And of course, there's an action built in that when they click on the button, it will change it to a show me, try me, or guide me, whatever you pick. So it's very easy to go ahead and use that and maintain it. And of course, it is collaborative. So if I create that capture and then you want to make a change, you can go to the course, download it from the repository to your desktop, and then go ahead and make that change. And when you upload it there, it makes that change. So even though that's a desktop component, it still has all the capabilities that you have with everything else. I'm not going to talk a lot about this, but sometimes people come to us and they have a whole bunch of content built in another system. We do have services where we can convert it from a proprietary authoring tool or standardized XML. Word import's actually a built-in feature. Of course, PowerPoint conversion, that's a built-in feature. You don't have to come to us. You can use those features there, but we can work with you to migrate that content too. Also, a single sign design approach. So you're not just creating the traditional e-learning courses. You can create training guides, instructor-led presentations, job aids, knowledge base. You're going to find that unlike pretty much any other tool on the market, out of the box, you can create all sorts of different look and feels and things that you don't really even think about as e-learning authoring type things that you could do. We'll take a look at some of those. And of course, all that information can be sent to a learning management system or a learning record store, XAPI if you like, or to both. It allows you to manage all that content. So unlike before where everyone's on a desktop, maybe you're saving things in SharePoint, everything's backed up. You have ways to go ahead and create multiple projects and categories, manage a central repository of things where you can search and reuse it, search across content. You have reporting about what's going on in the authoring, so you can see things like life cycle. You have a built-in courseware checklist. So if everyone's supposed to do certain things and you have a checklist everyone's kind of using in a Word doc, well, you can have that right in the system, and you can even prevent people from publishing the course until all the items have been checked off, and you can see who checked it off and when. So there's a lot of things really to make your life easier if you're doing more than one course, which most of you are. I'll mention briefly, too, another unique capability is we have partners that provide off-the-shelf content in all these different areas. And one of the great things about this off-the-shelf content is a lot of it, not all because there's some licensing restrictions, but most of it you can actually edit in Domino One. So if you want to brand it, easy to do. If you want to use a certain part of it for a course or go ahead and add to it, easily do. It's not any limitations. So it's another great way that you can really take advantage of Domino that, of course, pretty much any other tool, there isn't that option out there. So that's another great option. Of course, when you go to publish it, LMS, LRS, out of the box, we have by far heads above shoulder above everyone else in terms of XAPI support. Of course, you can create performance support. There's printout versions. We have that Domino mobile app. There's a free version with it so people can take content offline, disconnected. We also have a convey publishing option, so you can actually have content hosted by us, and you don't have to update it. You just hit publish, and it's automatically updating your LMS. That's a one-step publishing process. We host it. Again, it's not required. You can load the full package right into the LMS if you want. But if you have a lot of content, You can have it this way. You load a pointer or a launcher SCORM stub into the LMS, and then after that, you don't have to touch the LMS again. You just hit publish, and then it's automatically in that LMS, that update. So for folks who are dealing with a lot of content, or it's kind of a pain to get the content in the LMS, this is a huge, huge time saver. I literally had one content where people got out of their, once it was installed, they got out of their chair and stood up cheering because they were saving so many hours. But another option available. I mentioned XAPI. I'll get into more detail if you like, but these are things that we do out of the box. As you probably know, pretty much every other authoring tool, what they do out of the box is take SCORM data and turn it into XAPI, and also tell you if you visited a page and tell you to write a lot of JavaScript. And even going ahead and using that and publishing is a pain. Well, with us, we're tracking dozens of different things out of the box with you doing nothing other than using the tool. If you want to go ahead and send XAPI data along with the SCORM package, you can do that out of the box. Anything else, it's custom JavaScript to even try to do it there. If you want to do a custom statement, it's a point and click interface, just like a hide and show action. It's not any JavaScript. So lots and lots of capabilities there. We even have an option where you can have content automatically adapt based on skills that someone has already proven in a different course. So when Carrie launches the course, she's already has skills that have been marked off in the Learning Record Store. It's going to automatically change her course and eliminate content from her course that doesn't apply to her because she already has that skill. So it gives you an idea of how advanced we are. And again, it makes it super easy, and that's the point, make it super easy to go ahead and take advantage of this new capability, XAPI. Things we're known for: ease of use, advanced authoring, reuse, assessment, branding. These are all things that you can easily do. Let's take a look at some sample content so you can just see what this stuff may look like. Let me bring my browser back up, and let's take a look at this one over here. So this is a traditional type course. It's got the navigation at the top and menu options, glossary, outline, all sorts of things that you can open. You can have it pinned open if you want. But it is a fully responsive course as opposed to a traditional. So when I resize it or I'm on a different device, things actually change and adjust, not just shrink the screen. Of course, these items remain grouped together because they, belong together from a design standpoint. In the authoring tool, there's all sorts of built-in controls, so input controls, slider bars, and things like that, where you can choose to record variables or not, and you can have actions triggered off. Of course, from compliance reason, you can have things locked out until they finish it, pop-ups, all sorts of different ways that you can do feedback. We also have a lot of built-in controls like themes. Honestly, we looked at it, we saw other tools release like 10 new tab theme templates every week, it seems. Instead, we just have a component. You pick a tab, and then you can change and adjust it. And then if you want to change, you don't have to rebuild it. You just go to the options ribbon toolbar, change the colors, change the design, etc. there. Again, making it super simple. Or like a call out. These are all happen all the time, so there's a built-in design for that. You just focus on adding a thing. Do you want an icon, etc. Colors automatically change by your overall theme design, but you can override that. And they all have different responsive settings. So for example, a tab when it's really small would look terrible. So it automatically turns into an accordion menu. And if you have a bigger set of tabs, you can have it turn into an accordion menu sooner based on different breakpoints and sizes. Or things like galleries. Again, another built-in component. You just go ahead and add it, and then add in the information and say, hey, I don't want the buttons here. I want the buttons there turned on or off. Again, your choices. Or a timeline, another built-in component. You just add that, and of course that auto adapts to based on the size of that information. And when you go ahead and have perhaps a compliance page like this where you want them to look at everything, again, that's something you can easily go ahead and build. And being responsive, you want to go ahead and have it automatically scroll up so they see the different options as the page goes, because you don't know what size. So again, those are things that you can build in. And so they come over here and acknowledge it, and then I can finish that page. And of course, with any course, you can have tests tied to it, and of course, practice exercises. Really, on any page, you can add just about anything you want. This one's very straightforward and simple, but anything you can do on a regular page, you can do on a test or practice page there. And all sorts of feedback, different options. Nope, we don't want to connect a USB there. See if we can get these right. We'll go ahead and pass the test there. And it gives you feedback on it. In this case, it's also giving feedback about individual learning objectives. So that's another thing that pretty much doesn't exist in any other tool. And this, just by using the structure and design of it, you can have this automatic. You don't have to build some weird custom thing that you would in any other tool, but you can actually get feedback about all the different objectives that they passed or didn't pass there. Let's look at another design. This we call our story view. Can have a table of contents look and feel. It's yet another look and feel. We call them themes. Some people think of them as skins that you can apply to it. If you've used Rise, it should look kind of familiar. That's their one and only look and feel. This is just one of many that we have available. Of course, a lot more options than you would have in Rise there. Here's a parallax effects. There's dozens of these that you can go ahead and pick from and change. You might be seeing the background changing. Here's another built-in component. This is a flip card set. There's also flashcards, another built-in component, and a scenario builder that you can go ahead and design. So you can have kind of a branch exercise complete with audio, lots of stuff, probably more powerful than the other one that you may be using. Of course, all sorts of markers and hotspots that you can have and options with that. And of course, here's another example. And again, this was using some of our out-of-the-box image gallery and items. But here's another timeline, I think a very good look and feel. This was a favorite course of Starbucks, naturally, another one of our clients who, again, use all sorts of different tools, trying to find something that they can actually work effectively together to build content. Let's take a look at this one here. Something completely different. You probably have never seen a course that looks like this. This is just another theme. Literally, I could apply a theme and take that coffee course and it would look like this. This is a searchable knowledge-based theme that we have. And we actually use this for our own user guide. We're the only product out there that literally has all their support materials, the training guide, the user guide, the community, all built in our own products, not somebody else's products, etc. there. So you see anything you like from our support materials, that's something you can do too with our products. So for example, I could search about themes right here. I find a whole bunch of information about themes. Let's look at the descriptions. All the tags that I might have put into the library to help me find things like images are tagged too. We'll take a look at that in a moment. But here's some information about themes using that built-in component, the accordion menu, as I mentioned there, all the different look and feels and options that you have available. We'll look at some of these. We won't touch on all of them today because of time there. But if I like this page and want to tell you about it, I can hit share. And then I get a direct link right to it there that I can share out with somebody. A lot of our folks have built content this way, and sometimes they build content this way, and then when they click on a link, it launches to a different look and feel, like the story view for something else. I mentioned you can find the page in the text, but it's also searching tags for your assets. So for example, this particular graphic it found on this page here, and it was tagged cat naturally, and that was tagged that way for folks to go ahead and show it. And this is just showing off one of the animations and options that we have there, so you can kind of see some of the animations and triggers. Here's another one. This is a single page design, kind of like an infographic, but we do have a menu here which can be turned on and off. This just jumps to different sections on the page because it's a one-page course. Or we have the menu here where we can jump down, and 3 of 8 represents the sections on there. So again, a very easy thing to build. Again, there's that gallery here, flashcards, as I mentioned, our flip cards there. Design with this. Again, this is a fully responsive design, just showing some of that same information. A reflective exercise here, which of course you could record that variable. Now that I finished that, it jumped me down here to the bottom of the page and marked it complete. Here we have an example of capture. This is more like a true infographic, no navigation. It does have a parallax effects there in the background. You can kind of see the background's moving at a different speed with that. Kind of hard to show in GoToMeeting, but you can see that there. Here's that show me type exercise, and it looks like a movie. Moves in. The zooming's automatic. You don't have to do anything to make that happen. On-off choice there. The text is information you put in there. for that, and you can change and adjust that. It does automatically capture text of what you're clicking on, but in some cases you want to change and adjust it. So very easy to do that. Nice thing as a learner, I can jump to any step I want, so I don't have to use the quote-unquote scrub bar to get to that specific spot. So makes it very easy. I can get rid of the zoom if I want, go full screen. These are options that you can turn on and make available for different folks. It can also be turned into a try me. Again, that's just a flip of a switch. So the user has to click on the items there, select an element in the row. So select there, there's the right choice. And then the next one, I'm not sure what it was. I can click on hint, it'll highlight it there. I can go ahead and click on it. In addition, if you want to put in hint text for any step, you can go and do that. You can have an intro and a conclusion to any simulation. That's another built-in feature there. So they can try and move through that. Or a guide me. I love these. It's kind of like the WikiHow, if you've ever been out to that. Again, a flip of a switch, and it's basically the step-by-step showing you the different options there. Of course, you could have a PDF download for a job aid. And that, again, it's automatic. You just turn it on, it automatically creates it. And, of course, you can brand that PDF just using a Word template file to go ahead and brand it. So another great way to build your content. Let's take a look at this one. This is a no nav. In other words, you design your nav. Again, very flexible. This was our very boring fire safety guide. It was a booklet that no one looked at. And so we made a fire safety about our headquarters and our location. So we can jump in, we can jump to our specific location, we can see the meeting spot, showing in that information, show the alternate exits, primary exit, or view the simulation. And this was built entirely in dominKnow 1. The only thing that wasn't was the actual videos. Recorded that with just a GoPro camera. And then we just used the free video editor on our Mac to go ahead and slice the video up, and then we used a little bit of a fire after effect, as you might imagine. So, of course, what do? Fire alarm goes off, get up and proceed to the nearest exit. We know that. It's doing some pauses, actions, moving to different clips, etc. there, giving us some corrective feedback. And so we'll go ahead and move along here. Of course, if you've been on a plane recently, you know the exit's not always the one in front of you, closest one there. So that's a hint that we don't go to the right here when we get a choice. We do go to the left. Now, if we go to the left, we have some choices. I'm going to let y'all on there either chat or pipe in video. Which one would you like us to take?
I'm going with the hoverboard.
Okay, that is the most popular answer. And if we're looking at XAPI data, which it could be sending by send clicks, you could easily see that in the figures. In fact, we do plan on putting on our samples there. But we'll go ahead and take a look at the Segway. I think that's a fun one. And yes, there is a Segway in the office. I think it still works, but maybe not. We'll see why. So we're taking the Segway, because that's a fun way to get out of the fire. But Segways don't corner too well. Fortunately, this is a simulation. So we can go ahead and try again. And of course, running, you know what, it may be slippery, same type of problem, but we want to walk cautiously, and we'll get to go ahead and see what happens. Yes, that's the correct choice. And so it gives you some advice there as you're moving around, not to shove your fellow escapees and then get out there. And of course, we are a Canadian-based company. And in Canada, there is some snow right now. This was filmed, actually, I think last year there, and you can go ahead and see what it looks like there. But again, these are just some of the different ways that you can build content. And literally, none of this was with custom themes or custom whatever. This is all out-of-the-box functionality that you've been looking at. So let's take a look at some of those things. When it comes to an ease of use, of course, one of the great things is let's leverage what people know. Microsoft Office and Ribbon Toolbar. Everybody has at least some experience with that. And that's true for both our Flow and our Claro course. In fact, the difference is you'll see Claro's red, Flow is blue, but the Ribbon Toolbar is the same. So once you learn one, you don't have to learn another. Another great thing is our multiple authoring modes. Unlike any other product out there, we have different modes. You go to Essentials, look, you have one Ribbon Toolbar. And larger clients can set it up to where when someone logs in, they only have that choice. So again, you can come in, and someone who normally, would just be doing some content edits and wouldn't be really designing things, they can come in and you don't have to tell them, hey, ignore, 9/10 of the interface. They don't have to ignore it there. Again, that's another great way to make it very easy to get up and running and creating that content. We have even another mode called Builder coming out that gets rid of the ribbon toolbar completely and just has an option where you can drag and drop items onto the page, and it really restricts it and steps you through. And so if you add an image or pick an image, it will force you to go ahead and pick the image right away. So it has content in it all the way. So again, another way to get more folks involved in building content. Other quick start options. Of course, you can jump to flow, Claro, import. We also have a concept of baselines. Think of that as, on the SharePoint, you had your favorite PowerPoint that everyone uses to start and create it. Well, that's what baselines are. You can create multiple baselines, and then everyone can take advantage of it. The baseline picks that theme, that look and feel for you, which of course are reusable. And it also picks all the content settings, like what's the default passing score, but it also has a collection of all your favorite page templates that is appropriate for that type of content. So again, it's a great way to get people up and running quickly and being collaborative. When you update that, everyone has access to it automatically. Of course, we do have out of the box lots of different templates that you can take advantage of, and every template is something you can customize. So if you like this one but you want to change it a little bit, you can change it and then just make it part of your own base templates, because every page you create is potentially a template, because you can copy it, and as long as you have access to it based on permission, you can access that and copy and change it too. Of course, there's all sorts of interactive components available, and these are those built-in components. So while we have lots of action capabilities, I'll get to in a moment, tabs out of the box, tile cards, accordions, scenario builder to go ahead and do a one-on-one interaction with someone with or without audio, points, all sorts of different choices, branching you can do there, callouts, panels, your custom HTML widgets. If you got something custom you built pretty cool in Adobe Animate, you can bring that right in. And unlike a lot of products, we actually have a published content API. So if you want your animation to automatically trigger the next button or store a variable, you can do that. You just need to use our content API, and you know that when the core system upgrades, it's not going to break, which if I read to other communities, that seems to be a big problem. Quick preview of options. You can pull up the preview. You can even have two different sizes at the same time for a preview, which is great when you're thinking mobile there. And of course, you can adjust that to see how it looks as well. Also, that theme, as I mentioned, that's all WYSIWYG. So you can come in here, turn on all sorts of colors, accessibility options, by far better than almost any other product on the market there. It's hard to kind of judge some of that, but we take accessibility very seriously, and we try to make as much as possible out of the box. So you don't really have to do anything, but we do guide you along with that, and a lot of options to make it easier than pretty much any other product out there to add accessibility. But when it comes to themes, all sorts of things you can turn on and off with that. They all change based on those different baselines or theme designs that you have available. Of course, those themes are reusable. So once you create that and use it in 500 courses, if a brand changes, you can update it once. All 500 courses are updated automatically. You do need to republish them, but you don't have to touch and edit all of them. Reuse, I mentioned that before, and that literally means like anything in the asset library, your images, your graphics, your attached PDF. If you go ahead and put it in 5 courses like this is and you hit replace, all 5 courses are updated automatically with that. If you want to update just one course, go right to it, click on a change button. You can swap it out. It preserves all the same actions and everything associated with that previous image, but now you have the new image in. And if I went back to the library, I'd see that that old image was only reused 4 times there. So again, a very cool capability you probably maybe even only dreamed of or didn't even think of before if you're using desktop solutions there. Also, reusability at the topic level. We call these learning objects. If you ever thought of learning objectives and you kind of had to abandon it because your tool didn't support it, out of the box, we support learning objectives. You can have your objectives, your contents, your practice exercises. Test questions can be associated with learning objectives. Of course, test questions do appear at the end of the course or at the end of the section automatically, even though they're associated with a learning objective. But you can reuse that whole learning object. It's being reused 2 places here. If I update any aspect of it, it gets updated in both locations. You can even do things like have a core, several courses where they have the learning objectives, the content, the questions, and that's used as a practice test. Reuse those learning objects in a mastery test, turn off the learning so they don't see the learning, and it just uses the test part of those learning objects. And then, of course, if you update the content, the practice version, and the test version both get updated automatically. So there's lots of ways that you can really save a ton of time, and of course make sure your quality and consistency remain high. I mentioned real-time collaboration. Literally everyone and all your colleagues could be working on the same course at the same time. You check in and out different pages, and that keeps us from playing tug of war and messing with each other's page at the same time I'm trying to do that. When you check that in, it actually automatically creates a version. So when I make a change, if Sean doesn't like it, he can roll back to his previous version, or if he likes something I did or something in his previous version, he can even grab part of the page and copy it into the existing page. So it's very flexible there, keeps all those versions available for you. So it's really the best of both worlds and working together. And of course, in larger groups, you may not even have permission to that content, so you won't even see it. So that's an option too. But again, very easy to collaborate together as multiple authors. Of course, there's also the collaboration on review. A key thing with us is the review is part of the integrated process. It's not an integrated add-on that you use a different tool and look for it. So you literally come over here when you're in a particular course, click on review, assign your users to it, make them available and assign them in so they get a free account, and then you set the review and they get automatic emails. And if you don't like the way we word the emails, those are things that you can change as well. If you just want to share a link, yeah, you can do that too. And then when they go to review it, they're going to see kind of like this screen. They'll see like a full item there. They can put in notes, reply to each other's notes, etc. there. And then you, when you're working on it, you actually see the notes in the workflow. So you can pull up a report on the notes, they can see a report on the notes, or you can work on the page and literally see that feedback right there. And if it's on a specific item, if you hit C element, it's going to go right to it, especially helpful and responsive pages that may be a little bit longer there. You can hit resolve, mark it complete, incomplete, whatever triggers you want. Lots of different ways you can manage those notes. Of course, you get all the details. And of course, you can automatically send a notification back to someone. Of course, if you want to export those notes and send out an Excel file or Word document of that, you can do that too. Again, having it right in the workflow makes it really great for reviewers and saves you a lot of extra time. And if you're working together or you want to put your own notes in, you can add a note as you're working on it. So you can use this as a way to kind of track different things you just don't want to deal with right now and do. So again, very easy to work with that. I mentioned accessibility. Again, we bring that right to the workflow, bring items in automatically, as well as hints for whatever type of item that you're working on to go ahead and make that accessible. So again, it's all about making your life easier and faster, because your time is worth way more money than what our product or any other product costs. Of course, full media support. All sorts of videos. You've seen that. You can bring in videos from streaming servers. We have a video playlist built in, so you can copy your Vimeo or YouTube, drag and drop it in there. It automatically creates a playlist. You don't have to do some custom widget or download somebody else's JavaScript that they built to do that. All built right in there for that. Of course, you can add on all sorts of things, speech bubbles, form controls, built-in people library with different actions. That, of course, is tied into the built-in branching there. Built-in image editor for that light image editing, cropping, adjusting the images, effects, etc. there too. Of course, all sorts of advanced authoring capabilities, actions, anything, hide, show. Very easy to go ahead and do. For example, if some reason I wanted to hide this, I could just come over here to interact. I could go something directly to the actions or triggers, or say, hey, when this is interacted with, and when it's clicked, double clicked, all sorts of options, variables, just hit next, go ahead and put it. I'm going to show something, pop up, media timers, all sorts of things, functions, player controls, variables. Again, all sorts of different items that you can do. You can even trigger things based off of different devices. Like, hey, when they're on iOS, I wanted to do something special, like, congratulations, you got the best whatever there. But then I can go ahead and pick that item on the page, or I can pick it over here in the list, multiple items, and of course, all sorts of different effects I can change and adjust, or even change my mind on the trigger and apply that action to the page. So again, very easy to add those information or actions and triggers, and of course, combine them in really any way. Of course, you have all sorts of form controls where you can collect information, or just fire a trigger based off of that. Buttons. We give a lot of options here, but this is really just one button. we just automatically added the action for you, typed in the text or resized it or changed a feature. Once you add these buttons in, again, just like components, they pull up their own options ribbon toolbar. And these are just all on and off choices that you can make with it. Of course, literally anything, the P on this page could be a button and trigger and tie to it there. Of course, if you want to have your own variables, you can put those in. We have 100+ different system variables built right into the system. And things like a timer. Unlike a lot of products where you have to add a JavaScript timer, that's another built-in component, again, already there for you. Of course, you can add your own custom variables and actions and operators and conditions that you can tie to it to do the more advanced things. And if you want to add JavaScript, there's options available for that too. I mentioned custom XAPI statements. Again, no extra JavaScript, just point and click, just like we've done here. In the right flyout, I pick the type of statement, verb, put in my URI, and then I can even send variable information automatically with my XAPI statement. So painfully or painlessly easy. When it comes to assessment and practice questions, you can go ahead and build those in too. We talked about those in the beginning, but they can be practice questions, inline questions, a page with multiple questions on them there. Very easy to pick the different choices, all sorts of feedback options, feedback for individual choices, overall feedback, of course, default feedback. You can make custom feedback. If you wanted to go ding, ding, ding when they get it right, you can do that too. Of course, you can have random choice answer order. You can pick, if you have like all of the above, you can have that option not randomized and the rest of them randomized. So very easy to do that and set it up. And of course, random pooling. The nice thing is the random pooling are tied back to those learning objectives. So you don't accidentally skip objectives or learning concepts that you're trying to teach in your test, which unfortunately is something very easy to do unless you're paying close attention to with pretty much any other tool out there. And there's that randomization settings, the random pooling right there in the properties for that learning objective. And again, the random pooling is tied to each individual learning objective, which you could just have one learning objective if you wanted, of course, or you can tie it to true learning objectives. It's really up to you. And of course, the look and feel, really anything that you could do that I talked about before, you can do on a test question. The difference is you have a couple extra actions that you have, things like triggering, hey, did they get an attempt right or wrong or partially correct? You can trigger actions off of those because that's built into the questions. And if you make it as a practice question, you want to have the same thing as a test question, just duplicate it, drag and drop it into the test question folder, and you're all set for that. And when you're building it, like I said, there's all sorts of different options that are reusable, like the themes, glossaries. If you have to do footnoting for some cases, like pharmaceutical courses, citations are built in. You don't have to manually create that stuff. Saves hundreds of hours there. Publishing profiles, like all those settings that you set on the desktop, well, you can have that same type of thing already set up for you, and then everyone else can go ahead and take advantage of it with publishing profiles that have all those on-off choices, number of test attempts. Do you include certain things in the for sequential, let them jump ahead or not? And again, all sorts of SCORM settings that you have available, as well as turning on and off some of those automatic XAPI statements that we have available. So I've tried to quickly cover a good swath of all the types of things that dominKnow can do for you, and some reasons that you may want to check it out. And but there's all sorts of things I didn't cover. Like, for example, I've heard in certain tools, if you go to the timeline, which we have a timeline there, and you drag the timeline over, the stage doesn't update. And that floored me that was the case. Of course, that does do it in dominKnow. Or if you want to go ahead and add an action, you can add it directly from the timeline. In other tools, you may have to do like 3 clicks to go ahead and add that action. It's a 1-click in dominKnow. Or you drag and drop an image up onto the page. Even though this is a cloud-based tool, it's going to automatically upload and add to the page. But it's not just images. You can do that with audio and video, which some desktop tools, apparently, you have to hit insert and go through 3 or 4 steps to go ahead and add that. So lots of little things that I'm even discovering that are as much better in dominKnow than I thought it was. I thought it was just the way that it is for most tools, but apparently not. In any case, we have some time for questions here, it looks. So I'm going to go ahead and stop, take a breath, and open the floor to any questions or anything else you want to delve into a little bit more that I touched on.
This is Carrie. I personally don't have any questions right now, but I just want to say thank you because I've always been curious what all it could do, and I was very impressed and thought it was pretty awesome. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And speaking of, if anybody wants to check it out, we'll follow up with a link to the recording, of course, for those folks who attended or didn't get a chance to attend, but a link to where you can go ahead and do a free trial too.
That would be wonderful.
Other questions or anything else that anybody saw that piqued their interest they want to learn a little bit more about?
Well, I'll I'll bring it up. I would love if you could pull up the XAPI statement generator again.
Hmm?
I mean, you and I talked about this when we started planning for this session. I I love the fact that it's built in, it's got a GUI interface, and you don't have to write the full JavaScript statement or jQuery statement to get it to function. That it's right out of the box, and if you want to do a custom statement that's not one of these, that's by default, it's still just a GUI interface to write your own statement.
Yeah. It's this is literally something you if you've been using other tool and you go to use ours, you're gonna want to poke a sharp object in your eye for having spent time using the other tool. But yeah, out of the box in their publishing profiles, these are items that you can turn on and off if you don't want to include those statements, and basically just use the tool. You don't have to do anything else. Some other things like practice questions. Out of the box, there's not an off option for that, but we're tracking the details for practice questions. You'd think that'd be a no-brainer for everyone else to do, but apparently not. But inline questions, those things are being trans. We talked about our branching scenario. That's a built-in branching scenario. I'll pull that up just so you can see it, but it's tracking statements for that. Playing media. So our automatic media player, so you can have like a media playlist, it's automatically tracking play, pause, and completed of those media. So that's just being done automatically. If I want to do a custom statement, let's say for some reason when I click on this, I want to do a custom statement. Just clicking on it's going to do an automatic statement, but I can come over here to triggers, is interacted with, click, double click, whatever the choice is. I'm going to actually come over here to functions and variables and click on send XAPI statement. And so I'll come over here, and then I have my choice where I can pick basically any of the ADL approved verbs that are available right now, and pick my choice and put in my own URI, should be unique. Pick the type, again, same there. Success, response, and score are ways to add in different variables, system or otherwise, if you want to include that information. That's automatically included in statement, along with things like what browser and stuff. That's another on-off choice. And then I just put in the name and the description. I can even have conditions like if the username equal Paul, don't do it or something. Apply it. Put that in. Of course, I didn't put it in URI, so it did check that. But that's all it is to go ahead and add a custom statement. And then once I'm done with everything, I do need to make sure that, well, usually I need to make sure is that I put in my own LRS targets, which, again, for some reason, it's kind of hard in some, but literally you just put in the endpoint, the secret and password, and then when you go to hit publish, you can, here's that checklist. It's telling me I haven't finished my checklist. I'll just bypass it right now. I could come over to LMS and publish as a SCORM package, and at the same time, just pick one or more LRS targets, and then it's going to automatically send it off to the Learning Record Store and SCORM at the same time. Or I can come over here to LRS, just pick XAPI, and just use the supplied by LMS and or send it off the additional XR API activity data right there. So it's I just had an email from this morning of somebody who was like, because they had wrote a bunch of JavaScript just to do what you saw on the screen, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so easy."
Yeah, no, I was working with a team on the XAPI cohort a couple of semesters ago on building a repurposable wrapper for Captivate content to do pretty much everything that you just did. So, you know, it, you know, it's so much easier and so much more user friendly. So I love it.
Thank you.
That's personally my favorite feature. But there's, you know, so much that you've covered today that I know I've gotten text messages from Juan, as it's gone on, of him commenting on some of the features. So we really appreciate it. And thank you
Oh,
so much for your time.
You're welcome. I'm so glad there, and I'm glad that as a group that you're saying, hey, there's probably more out there. Maybe we should take a look. Sometimes it's hard to rise above the noise of the one or two solutions that seems like everyone's using. Of course, it's not everyone, just a lot of folks out there. But
Yeah,
they always mean that it's the best solution out there. And like I said, at the end of the day, I think people's time is worth more than the small amount that really authoring tools cost in comparison. And for those people who are watching the recording, I was just showing off the branching scenario, which is another new capability. We're coming out with new releases all the time. This was actually released last fall, and a new feature that is available right within that for you, responsive or non-responsive content.
You know what I love so much about this is Aaron King is working with a pilot team that I'm on creating a new course standard called micro story learning. And it's going to be a certificate class that ATD is going to be offering, and it's all about scenario-based training. So, for me, so many of us hard code this in HTML5 to do these scenarios specifically that are video-based. And here, you've got just such a great little GUI interface to go through it. It makes life so much easier.
Yeah, and
you can see it.
Very easy to kind of set those up. And of course, as I mentioned too, one of the great things about scenarios, you really want to know what they're doing, and that's where XAPI comes in. And well, what do you do with this one here? You just go ahead and use the tool. It just sends the XAPI automatically, unless you don't want it to.
Yeah, that's great.
Any other questions or anything? I know we're at about the top of the hour here.
Yep. I don't have any.
Well, hey, thanks so much. I'll go ahead and we'll stop that recording here, and I'll Sean. I will be in that area for Learning Solutions, so we talked about a potential live on site. Be happy to join if that works out, and we'll go.
That'd be great. All right. Well, I'll be speaking at Learning Solutions, so I will make sure that you and I get to talking before we all get our travel